The year is 1982. The Palestinian Liberation Organization is entrenched firmly in Beirut, under siege, surrounded by Israeli forces. For weeks, Israel had been attacking the city from the sea, air, and land, cutting off food, water, and power. The IDF secured several key locations, but Beirut held out. A peace agreement is finally implemented on August 18th. As part of the deal, French troops arrive in Beirut on August 21st. They're followed by U.S. and Italian forces. Their mission, to ensure the PLO leave the Lebanese capital. All in all, 8,500 PLO members are sent to Tunisia. Another 2,500 are sent to other Arab states.
It was the port of Beirut. I was a reporter for IDF Radio, and we were about three people with plain clothes that morning. When we came in early in the morning, IDF still controlled the port, but then the troops withdrew so the PLO people could board the ships. That was the deal brokered by the Americans. So I was reporting live from a roof of a short building, and on the road just beneath, trucks loaded with PLO fighters were starting moving.
Yasser Arafat, leader of the PLO, was in Israel's crosshairs for years. But after multiple failed attempts on his life, the U.S. now acts as his protector.
The Americans had made it very clear not to try to take out Arafat because he was really on the binoculars of the snipers more than once. So this is definitely something to remember. The snipers, the act of Arafat going into the ship was recorded as far as I remember.
Although Israel failed to kill Arafat, for the PLO, the evacuation from Beirut is a clear, painful loss.
We were at the height of our so-called victory. The PLO had been defeated. Bashir Ismail had been elected as the president-elect of Lebanon. And it was, in fact, the total success of the Mossad on the one hand and of the army on the other hand. We had cut the road between Beirut and Damascus, and the Syrian army was also defeated in the area.
PLO was obviously defeated, but they tried to put the best face on it. They wore fresh uniforms. They had red kafiyas, all of them, holding their rifles on these crowded trucks. And the trucks then drove slowly all these people to those huge cruise liners from Greece or Cyprus, white cruise ships. And the PLO people boarded ship after ship after ship, and they were coming into the port on the way to Tunis.
For Israel, the relocation of the PLO members meant the group was now vulnerable.
While on the roof, snipers were still shooting from West Beirut, and Israeli intelligence people were there with huge telescopes taking pictures of each and every PLO person that was boarding the ships. That was going on for most of the day, and then the PLO moved to Tunis.
As far as Arafat is concerned, he just arrived in Tunis and began operating. Now, the idea of the war, the first Lebanese war, was in fact to reach Beirut and cut the head of the snake, as it used to be called. And in this way, we would be able to have an autonomy, light autonomy, rather than an autonomy governed and influenced by Arafat.
3 years later, Arafat narrowly survives another assassination attempt as the Israeli Air Force bombs his Tunis headquarters. 73 people were killed, but Arafat was saved, out jogging at the time of the attack. Only 9 years after that, 12 years after the PLO left Lebanon, Arafat found his way back to Gaza and the West Bank as a result of the Oslo Accords.
I found myself reporting live from Gaza when Yasser Arafat came back.
We just expelled or deported Arafat from Beirut in order to receive him from the border with Egypt. So we just threw him through the door and he came back through the window.
Arafat went on to lead the Palestinians in several rounds of failed negotiations with Israel. He died at age 75, again in exile, this time in France, where he'd been hospitalized with a rare blood disorder. French courts have dismissed several attempts to open an investigation into his death, which his supporters blame on Israel.